Not only witnessed it firsthand, Brian, but like most people now pulled out his cell phone and started to record it. They heard over 100 gunshots exchanged back and forth. As those runners behind her, what do you do? Do you try and keep pace with her, or do you think that she can't sustain that for a while and wait for her to drop back? Red Wings general manager Ken Holland called it the worst kept secret in the entire NHL. Jeff Blashill today introduced as the 27th head coach in Red Wings history. He's kind enough to join us right now, and Coach born in Detroit, grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, diehard Red Wings fan. This is a great fit for you. Took 18.5 inches to shut down the city of Battle Creek today.
24-hour News 8's Casey Jones is live in Saugatuck right now. Casey, what are you seeing out there?
Snow. We're seeing snow everywhere. Temperature and turnover. The Lions will be battling much more than just the Green Bay Packers tomorrow. I'm Casey Jones live at Lambeau. Coming up, we take a closer look at the role both of those two will play. Now, Mark D'Antonio was diplomatic earlier in the week in his press conference. Today in the post-game press conference, the gloves came off. Obviously, a Harbaugh name comes to the top. Jim or John, it's got to be at the top of the wish list. This is a serious consideration, though, for you. You've been in talks with Magic Johnson, is that correct? They're making a little bit of a push before the actual push of this race, which will come before those hills. The highest elevation here on the Riverbank Run, 25K, right around mile 9.5 or so. Helmet-to-helmet contact is inevitable in football, but unlike the pros, where sometimes there's more doctors than athletes on the sidelines, in high school, a helmet is your best friend. New research says that some helmets are actually safer than others. So, how safe are your children's helmets? To a promise fulfilled that was made by Coach Mark D'Antonio at the beginning of the season that these guys, these players, would be the ones. The Big Ten tournament trophy just being locked up. We're going to jump in on some of the sound right now. Denzel Valentine talking to the media after the game.
You know, they prepared me to.
Syracuse looked like a team that started the year 25-0 in Western Michigan. They looked like a team that hadn't been on this grandest stage in a decade. They think timing was a kind of a factor in this, that they called early on in the morning and targeted older couples that still have landline phones. Yeah. Now, of course, from Lambeau, I can't leave you with that negative news, Larry. So I'll leave you with this. The Lions have won one playoff game since 1957, of course, that in 1991, and it came against the Dallas Cowboys. Even LeVert, perfect position on that shot. Just one of those things where you kind of have to tip your hat to Kentucky. He said there was a moment after that wreck where he kind of felt himself to make sure he was okay. You see in those pictures, the taillights of that truck were just inches from where his face would have been. Yeah. Could be one of the greatest battles in the state. It's just a shame that one of these schools will see their season come to an end so early in week one of the postseason. Just heard from Prince Fielder. We asked him, how long do you kind of let this sink in, and when can you finally reflect and put this season into perspective? He said, well, he's waking up at 8 o'clock this morning to drive his kids to school. So when his eyes are burning with the morning sun, that's when you kind of move on and forget.
Our own Casey Jones is in Plymouth tonight, and he joins us live now with post-game reaction and how Fisher's friends honored him at that game, Case.
Brian, you'd never be able to tell that Granville lost this game 3-0 tonight. Every single Bulldog left this arena with their heads held high. It was a certain sense of support, a minor healing in this unthinkable tragedy. And then in one of the greatest fits of sportsmanship and one of the greatest sports moments I have ever witnessed, you saw that Detroit Catholic Central, after the two teams beat up on each other for 54 straight minutes, they joined Granville at their net for a moment of prayer and remembrance of Ryan Fisher. Now, obviously, there is no script for dealing with tonight, but certainly the Bulldogs wrote theirs courageously.
As you can tell, we were a team of great heart, and even though a big part of our heart was missing today, we felt that he was there with us.
Honestly, all I knew is just we all had passion. We all wanted to go out there and give 110% all for Ryan. This whole game was for him. Every effort that we had.
I've coached some wonderful, remarkable young men, and I've never met anybody or coached anybody quite like Ryan Fisher.
Ryan Fisher's parents were in attendance to tonight's game. In fact, they spoke with the team about 40 minutes before this game started, but they didn't want to speak publicly. However, the Granville community, they spoke loudly for them.
It's going to hit me again and again that he's gone.
It's an incomprehensible emotion for a high schooler. Their captain, teammate, friend, 17-year-old Ryan Fisher passed away suddenly in his sleep just hours before his team's state semifinal hockey game.
I never thought that
he'd be taken away from us.
Fresh tears and heavy hearts. Hundreds of Granville Bulldogs packed CompuWare Arena, and Fisher's number 11 filled those stands.
He's been one of my close friends, and I miss him dearly.
In whatever way possible, the Fisher faithful tried to find some form to express their love, their support for a kid who made a lifelong impression on so many, taken too soon.
If you could think of someone that was a perfect child, it would be Ryan.
One of the kids that made the biggest impacts on my life, and he will always be on my mind every day, and I'll never forget about him or how awesome he was and how great of a person he was.
Louder than any cry and more powerful than any words was the moment of silence before the game. Even more touching, Fisher's close friend and teammate, Max Hauptman, wore his captain's jersey in his honor.
Privilege to be able to wear his jersey, and I just hope that I lived up to what Ryan stood for.
In the biggest stage and in the biggest game, athletics and life were put into perspective by a young man who embodied both to the fullest and truly lived what it means to be a captain.
I just feels like right now, I feel like he's not gone. I feel like he's going to skate out on that ice any second, but he's not.
Now, two students in that story, they had T-shirts printed off that they sold tonight with a C on the chest for captain, which Ryan Fisher was, and his name and number on the back of them. All the proceeds from the T-shirt sales that these two students thought up went to the Fisher family. Two students raised $300, a small price for the Fisher family for all that Ryan Fisher has done for the Granville community.
When you send your child out to play football, you assume your school is using the best equipment possible to protect them. But a month-long targeted investigation found that that is not always the case.
We reached out to more than 100 West Michigan school systems to find out if our athletes are wearing the safest helmets out there based on the newest research.
Target 8 investigator Casey Jones takes you behind the mask.
In its most basic form, football is tough.
Go! Hey!
It's in your face. Exhausting.
Let's go!
Hit or be hit. The lights on Friday night shine down on a physical game.
Defense, shut it down!
I've always tried to be tough, and that's how I was raised, to be a tough kid, and don't come out unless something's really wrong with you.
After a especially hard hit on the first day of practice 2 years ago, senior linebacker Jack Bates found that sometimes toughness isn't staying in the game, but taking yourself out.
Feeling drowsy and nauseous. The headaches in kind of a dark, gloomy stage in my life.
And I think Jack went in like a bull and hit the top of his head and compressed a portion in his neck. Missed the whole season.
Wins it for Grand Rapids Christian.
A state championship season for the Christian Eagles, sidelined by concussion. Helmet-to-helmet contact is inevitable in football, but unlike the pros, where sometimes there's more doctors than athletes on the sidelines, in high school, a helmet is your best friend. New research says that some helmets are actually safer than others. So, how safe are your children's helmets?
Do you know what kind of helmet your son is wearing?
I don't.
I think he's in the Riddell.
This study, I think, was revolutionary, not necessarily to NFL and college level, but it really allowed high schools in junior high and Pee-wee to sit up and take notice and say, there's things we need to do to protect our kids.
That groundbreaking research was done by a team of Virginia Tech and Wake Forest scientists, drop testing 23 adult football helmets 120 different times each. Information was gathered from the helmets with sensors. Over 10 years of nonprofit, independent research entered into a star equation, a 5-star helmet, best available, all the way down to the not recommended 1 star.
This is going to be a little bit more simplified, and when you push on this here, you can actually feel some of this padding. This is really hard.
If it was my child, I definitely wouldn't let him play unless it was a 4 or 5-star helmet.
I just trust that the school knows what they're using.
We would raise a question about it now.
Target 8 wanted to find out where West Michigan fell on that 5-star scale. So we asked over 120 schools with football teams what they were putting on their players' heads. A vast majority use helmets with a 4 or 5-star rating. But at least 20 schools say they use some helmets with a 3-star or lower rating, including Holland Christian, who supplies approximately 40 of the Riddell VSR4 helmets to their JV and freshman teams, a 1-star rating. They declined an interview, but say each year they phase out some of the older helmets with newer models. Division II power Muskegon uses mostly 5-star helmets, but a handful of Coach Shane Fairfield's players use the Schutt Air Advantage, a 2-star rating, adequate.
You know, when you said, you know you're putting him in a 2-star helmet, I never really thought of it that way because I haven't had an issue. So, but now that makes me want to think more that, my decisions, and sometimes I have to do what the kids might not like.
Lawrence and Axman agree no helmet will ever be concussion-proof, but there is new technology reducing the risk.
But we can't regenerate brain cells. We can't replace your brain. But you're going to need your brain for the rest of your life.
Football is a tough physical game. Don't mess around with anything in your head. If you hit your head, you only have one brain.
And our investigation continues right now online at woodtv.com. You can find out what kind of helmets 75 schools around West Michigan are using. On the walls of Schembechler Hall, there's an inscription that reads, "Those who stay will be champions." Well, inside those walls at around 3 o'clock, Brady Hoke informed his players of the football team that he would not be staying. And it's for that reason he won't be staying. As after just 4 seasons with a 31-20 record, Hoke was fired by interim athletic director Jim Hackett as the head football coach here at the University of Michigan. Now, after his first season of going 11-2, the team took steps backwards year after year until this 5-7 finish, which was the end for Hoke. Now, interim athletic director Jim Hackett stressed that this was not an easy decision for him, but that the search for a new head coach begins immediately. It's a search that he will be heading up, a decision that he will be making, just like this decision he made to fire Hoke. It won't be an easy decision. There's a lot of great candidates out there, he said. He said that he still thinks the head coach of the Michigan football program is a highly touted position, but he's asking for patience from the fan base.
I'm drawing some conclusions about when we can't take more risk at Michigan. But with that said, I want you to be patient because it's a bit of a trade here. Is if you get an answer quickly and you could wait a little longer and you believe you upgraded, you might be willing to take that risk. So that's part of the process that I'm mapping out.
Now, as far as some of the assistants and coordinators, Hackett said that they were all sat down today and they were told that they will be re-interviewed if they choose to stay by the head coach that Hackett and the university does decide upon. Now, in a bit of irony on the afternoon, the guy that Hoke replaced, Rich Rod, at about the same time that it was released that Hoke was fired, was announced. He was named the Pac-12 Coach of the Year. He is now, of course, the head coach of Arizona. Arizona will be playing in the Pac-12 title game Friday night. A little closer to home in West Michigan, Ferris State quarterback Jason Vanderlaan is one of 9 finalists of the Harlan Hill Trophy, which goes to the best football player in NCAA Division II football. Now, Vanderlaan led the Bulldogs to an 11-1 season. He scored 50 touchdowns with more than 2,300 yards passing and nearly 1,500 yards on the ground. He's already been named the GLIAC Player of the Year. Now, some very sad news on the ice coming out of Hockeytown tonight. Gordie Howe has suffered another major stroke, according to his family members. They do say that the 86-year-old Red Wing legend is responding and resting comfortably in the hospital. Howe suffers from dementia and has had a series of strokes over the past 3 months, 3 since October. Now, here in Ann Arbor on the Michigan campus, the basketball team, ranked 17th in the country, is getting ready for a big-time showdown. It's the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and John Beilein and the Wolverines taking on Syracuse, the Orangemen. Beilein knows this is a good test to see where his guys are at early on in the season.
The opportunity we have right now to see where we are because of Syracuse's great tradition, their team, and our guys just, okay, let's go play. We're not looking down the bench. There's not a whole lot of other guys we're going to put in, but you got to play through this stuff.
Obviously, they'll be thinking about who's next, not basketball tonight, guys.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
true.
Thank you, Casey.